Battlefield 6 release date revealed. Sims movie updates. Here's a twist in the gaming world. Electronic Arts has officially set the launch date for Battlefield 6 as October 10th, a date that many eagle-eyed fans will instantly recognize as the original window Rockstar Games had once earmarked for Grand Theft Auto 6. But here's where it gets controversial. EA's president, Laura Miele, insists this wasn't a last-minute pivot to capitalize on Rockstar's schedule shift, which now pushes GTA 6 to May 2026. Instead, she reveals EA had been meticulously planning this release long before Take-Two Interactive's announcement. "We've always been focused, laser-like, on delivering excellence this fall," Miele told Variety. "We didn't let external noise distract us. The Battlefield franchise is too big, too valuable, to risk getting caught in the shadow of another major release. And this is the part most people miss. EA's decision wasn't just about timing. It was about protecting the game's legacy and the company's reputation. We're not playing hypotheticals," she adds. "This is about seizing a once-in-a-generation opportunity." But Battlefield 6 is just one piece of EA's puzzle. The company is also pouring resources into its The Sims franchise, which Miele now calls one of our biggest growth opportunities. While EA has kept details under wraps about the upcoming multiplayer update for The Sims 4, Miele teases a complete overhaul of the game's technology and user experience. Imagine a Things universe where you can play solo or with friends, access mobile versions, and even dive into cozy, story-driven games, she explains. "We're building an ecosystem, not just a sequel." But here's a question that might spark debate. Why not just launch The Sims 5 as a fresh start? Miele argues that resetting the game would alienate the loyal community that spent years crafting content and customizations. Over 85 content packs later, "We're not asking players to start from scratch," she says. "That's not how we build trust." And then there's The Sims movie, a project EA has been whispering about for years. Partnering with Amazon MGM Studios and Margot Robbie's production company, Lucky Chap, Miele calls it the right creative partnership for a film that could bridge the gap between the game and mainstream audiences. The movie and the games can coexist, even evolve together, she says. "We're talking about shared content, interactive experiences, and stories that adapt to players in real time." But is this just a marketing gimmick or a genuine step toward transmedia storytelling? Only time will tell. Meanwhile, EA isn't ignoring the potential of Apex Legends. Miele hints at future TV or film adaptations, emphasizing the franchise's rich lore and character backstories. "These aren't just games, they're worlds waiting to be explored," she says. Yet, the cancellation of EA's Black Panther game this year has left some fans skeptical about the publisher's approach to licensed titles. Miele, however, points to a balanced portfolio. Upcoming Star Wars games from Respawn, mobile hits like Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes, and even an Iron Man title in the works. "We're investing in our own IPs like The Sims, Battlefield, and Apex, while still leveraging iconic franchises like Marvel and Disney," she explains. "It's about finding the sweet spot between innovation and familiarity." So where does this leave EA's future? Miele is clear. "We're building massive online communities, not just games." But as the company juggles next-gen titles, transmedia projects, and legacy franchises, one question lingers. Can EA maintain this delicate balance without overextending? We'd love to hear your thoughts. Do you think EA's strategy is bold or reckless? Share your take in the comments below. Battlefield 6, the ultimate PC gaming experience with DLSS, FSR, XeSS. Get ready for an exciting leap in gaming technology. Battlefield 6, the highly anticipated first-person shooter from EA, is set to revolutionize the PC gaming experience by incorporating support for cutting-edge upscaling technologies. NVIDIA's DLSS, AMD's FSR, and Intel's XeSS. This is a game changer for PC gamers who are eager to enhance their visual experience. In a recent announcement, we learned that EA has teamed up with Intel to fine-tune the PC version of Battlefield 6, ensuring that it launches with full support for XeSS 2, along with various enhancements for Intel's Core Ultra and Core CPUs. This collaboration means that players can expect a smoother and more visually stunning gameplay experience right from the start. A sneak peek provided by Intel in a short video showcased a glimpse of the in-game graphics settings menu, revealing that all three major upscaling technologies will be available at launch. While the video primarily highlighted Intel's XeSS, it also indicated the presence of options for NVIDIA's DLSS and AMD's FSR, as evidenced by the 4 blocks visible in the settings. Players will have the ability to select their preferred upscaling mode, with the option set to Ultra Performance and a separate tab for enabling low latency mode for each technology. Intel's XeSS 2 promises to deliver not only upscaling, but also frame generation and low latency capabilities, enhancing the overall gaming experience. The latest v1.2 SDK for XeSS 2 is compatible with both NVIDIA and AMD graphics cards, which is a positive development for gamers who appreciate native support for their hardware. However, the specific versions of NVIDIA's DLSS and AMD's FSR that will be utilized in Battlefield 6 remain unclear. It is anticipated that NVIDIA's DLSS 4 will be the preferred choice, as it is designed to work seamlessly with the latest RTX 50 GPUs and even offers frame generation support for the RTX 40 series, while still being compatible with the RTX 20 series. As for AMD's FSR, it is likely to be either FSR 3 or FSR 4. FSR 4 is tailored for RDNA 4 GPUs, while RDNA 3 GPUs can take advantage of FSR 3 with frame generation capabilities. Opting for FSR 4 would be ideal, as its upscaling quality competes closely with that of DLSS and XeSS, thanks to its AI-driven learning model. While the system requirements for the Battlefield 6 beta are relatively modest, it's important to note that the game is expected to be quite demanding in terms of graphics, especially given the stunning visuals showcased in both the single-player and multiplayer trailers. Although the beta version may not support the new upscaling technologies, since XeSS 2 will only be available upon the game's official launch on October 10th, players can still look forward to certain optimizations for their PCs during the beta phase, which is set to begin in the coming weeks. So what do you think about the inclusion of these advanced upscaling technologies in Battlefield 6? Are you excited to see how they enhance your gaming experience, or do you have reservations about their implementation? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Battlefield 6 Preview, a return to form. This is a story of a game that deeply echoes its roots, yet subtly aims to reinvent itself. But here's where it gets controversial. Can playing it safe with nostalgia really satisfy both the hardcore fans craving familiarity and new players looking for innovation? Battlefield 6 is making waves by seemingly turning the clock back to the franchise's golden days, leaning heavily on the classic elements that made Battlefield 4 a fan favorite. After a 4-hour hands-on experience, I firmly believe this new installment might finally deliver the kind of experience longtime enthusiasts have been yearning for. The bigger question remains: will this approach truly attract a broader audience, or just reinforce the existing one? My preview was designed to give a comprehensive look at what's coming this fall, testing out various core modes across 4 of 9 launch maps, from gritty Brooklyn streets to Egyptian cityscapes like Cairo. I also got a chance to explore the new, yet oddly familiar class system that longtime players will immediately recognize. Throughout the session, I witnessed tanks exploding into the air, buildings crumbling around me, and experienced what EA calls kinesthetic combat in action. Now, let's clarify that term. Before playing, I was introduced to kinesthetic combat as the latest buzzword, which might lead one to think it's just a fancy way to describe more dynamic movement, something that might seem similar to innovations in other modern shooters like Call of Duty, which added more fluid action. However, the precise meaning felt elusive at first. Even after a briefing session, I had to ask the creative team for a clearer explanation. Christian Grass, the executive producer, described it as a movement system that emphasizes tactical decisions, like crouch sprinting, which allows players to approach safely and stay concealed behind cover, especially in wide-open maps. He also mentioned a new combat role that players can perform during firefights. But to me, these sound more like gameplay tweaks rather than a revolutionary concept. After actually trying it, I'd describe kinesthetic combat as a collection of movement adjustments that heighten the feeling of high-stakes action in Battlefield. I could smash through windows dramatically, drag teammates to safety during resuscitation, and have more hero moments, though nowhere near the acrobatics of movements like dive from Call of Duty. It's more about adding small, impactful options that make battles feel more cinematic. But does calling it kinesthetic combat truly do justice to its core? Honestly, it just felt very Battlefield. The familiar chaos infused with a slightly more refined motion system. This brings us to the delicate balancing act Battlefield 6 is attempting. The game aims to be visually stunning and modern, bursting with explosions and spectacle, all while echoing the classic Battlefield experience that fans cherished over a decade ago. It's a strange contradiction, trying to modernize without abandoning what made previous entries beloved. As Grass explained, the team drew inspiration from Battlefield 3 and 4, modernizing and pushing forward to craft a game that feels both nostalgic and fresh. That's probably why terms like kinesthetic combat and tactical destruction are sprinkled throughout the presentation. Words that sound futuristic, but essentially boil down to small upgrades on familiar features. Speaking of tactical destruction, the concept was presented as a design philosophy, aiming to make environmental destruction not just a visual spectacle, but a meaningful tactical element. In practice, some destruction looked fairly standard, reminiscent of Battlefield 4, like a tank blowing up a building, exposing enemies, or shooting out floors to create new vantage points. These mechanics are abundant, with maps like Cairo's Siege Zone unleashing destructible environments that turn the battlefield into chaos. Though not all maps embrace destruction equally. Some, like Liberation Peak, favor more strategic, less destructible terrain for intense firefights. With the occasional explode in waiting structure, what's interesting is that this destruction feels more like an evolution than a revolution, using environmental change as part of your strategic toolbox rather than an entirely new game mechanic. For players skilled in it, the environmental manipulation might add layers of depth. For the casual observer, it simply feels like a high-budget extension of everything Battlefield has done before. All of these elements clearly point to one thing. Battlefield 6 is a straight sequel to Battlefield 4, more so than Battlefield 5 ever managed to be. Squad coordination, destruction, vehicle dominance, and individual impact seem to be front and center again, aiming to reassure fans that this is the comeback they've been waiting for, especially after the more experimental and, frankly, polarizing Battlefield 2042. When asked how 2042 influenced this new game, the response was a firm steer away from it, focusing instead on the classic core of Battlefield 3 and 4. The return of the four core classes, Assault, Engineer, Support, and Recon, further confirms the focus on simplicity and familiarity. There's also a twist, an open weapon policy, where any class can equip any gun, potentially broadening player choice, but risking a feeling of sameness across roles, turning class distinctions into perks rather than defining features. This strategy will likely thrill longtime fans, but might leave casual players or newcomers questioning whether this safe, nostalgic approach is enough to sustain broader appeal. Even in my own play, I found myself reminiscing about Battlefield 2042's more ambitious, sprawling experiments, seeing that game as a fresh, if flawed, attempt to innovate and shake up the series. Battlefield 6 feels more like a return to what worked, familiar, reliable, and less risky. Ultimately, this makes sense in a way. Sometimes a series needs a bit of an easy reset, especially if its goal is to regain trust and rebuild momentum among core fans. The game's visuals and explosions are stunning, but it's lower on radical innovations and more designed as a confident step back into the familiar. Word of mouth from the people I spoke to was unanimous. It's Battlefield. Nothing more, nothing less. So, where do you stand? Is this safe revival enough to excite you, or do you want to see something more daring? Is returning to the old formula missed opportunities or a smart move in a volatile market where trust is everything? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Are we witnessing the start of Battlefield's steady comeback, or just another chapter of playing it safe?